Let's go to the movies. Marana Parks and Recreation presents the free Movies in Marana series on scheduled Saturdays between April and October. Movies start at sundown. Food vendors will be on site. Don't forget to bring chairs and a blanket. Visit maranaaz.gov/movies for the complete schedule.
The town of Marana is dedicated to providing 5-star service for all residents, both 2- and 4-legged. Download the Marana Pets app to report a lost pet or upload a photo of a found pet. Start reuniting families today.
Welcome to Real Talk with the Town, where I sit down with the Marana staff to answer your burning questions about our beautiful community. My name is Terry Rozema, and I'm the town manager for the town, so let's get started. Welcome, everybody, to another episode of Real Talk with the Town. My name is Terry, and I am your host, and today I am joined by a longtime employee, but a first-time guest on the show, our Community and Neighborhood Services Director, Miss Lisa Shafer. Lisa, say hello to our listeners today.
Hello, everyone. I'm excited to be here. I'm a little bit nervous, so I hope all this goes well.
Oh, you're going to be fine. Lisa's going to be a natural at this, I can tell. So, Lisa, we're here to talk a little bit about what the town does in terms of neighborhood services, because we got a question from one of our listeners about when do people contact the town versus the HOA, and really what's the difference between those two things, and how do they work together, and all of those kinds of things. So that's kind of going to be the gist of the show for today. But before we get into that, I want to do an icebreaker with you. Lisa, I think, we talked a little bit about how long you've been with the town, and how long is that?
I have just about completed 26 years.
26 years with the town. Now tell me, in that 26 years, how many different titles have you had, and how many different departments have you worked in?
I think I'm up to 11 or 12 titles, and I have worked in 3 different departments. 3 different departments, and 11 or 12. You may hold the record in the town of Marana for most titles in the history of the existence of the town, the organization itself. Do you have a favorite? Do you have a favorite title or position that you've had in the organization? Definitely. The position I hold now in the Community and Neighborhood Services Department is by far my favorite. So.
Yeah, well, that's good, because that's what we're here to talk about today. So I'm glad it's your favorite, because you guys cover a lot of different areas that people may not be aware of, and I think it'll be real helpful. So let's kind of get into this, and let's just talk about this question that this listener brought in. What is really the connection between the town and an HOA? Is there even a connection? And do they work together? Is it just completely separate entities? How does that work?
The most interaction we probably have with the HOAs is through our code enforcement division of our department. Our department has got many different divisions, but code enforcement has, I would say, many times a daily interaction with HOAs. So, and that could be us reaching out to the HOAs, or HOAs reaching out to us for some kind of assistance.
Mm-hmm. So let's talk about some of those things that maybe HOAs would cover if you're in an HOA, but then if you live in a neighborhood that doesn't have an HOA, maybe something that the town would cover. So let's talk about what some of those might be. Would weeds be one of those things? Because that's one that's a pretty popular or difficult thing in neighborhoods. Weed control. Is it the HOA? Is it the town? How does that work?
The weed control is probably one of the biggest. You're right, and they both cover them actually. What's interesting is the town has it in our code that weeds over 9 inches is when the town kind of reaches out and says, "Hey, you need to cut your weeds." From my interaction with living in an HOA in the past, it's if they can see a weed, then they're going to be knocking on your door or sending you a letter. So there is the difference. So I'm going to say, the HOA is more restrictive on weeds than the town of Marana is. Well, the HOA will sometimes reach out to us when they absolutely cannot get any compliance from their resident. Maybe they've been trying And now they're to the level of 9 inches or greater. And so they will reach out to the town.
So in the difference between an HOA and the town in terms of the ability to get something done, the town has the ability to cite them civilly for infractions, whereas the HOA does what? I mean, what is their power? What is their authority? Their club?
The way I'm understanding, and I haven't been part of, that part of the HOA, but they will send letters, and then they can obviously, at the end, charge you fees and lien your property, I believe, if it gets to that level, whatever their legal thinks they can take care of. But usually it's a fine that they will assess to you.
Okay. So let's talk a little bit about the different elements of community and neighborhood services and some of the things that you guys do. So let's break it down in terms of the different units or sections within community and neighborhood services, and tell us what each of them does.
We'll start with code. We're here talking mostly with code today. So we have code enforcement officers. We have 2 full-time code enforcement officers and a supervisor. The code enforcement themselves works with many different departments in the town, assisting them with their sections of the town code when requested. And then they also deal with or work with HOAs. So that one has been a department or division has traveled throughout the town. They have been in community and neighborhood services now for about 5 years. But they've been in planning, they've been in public works, they've been all over. So, but they are currently housed with us, and it's been a really great union between the other divisions we have in our department.
Yeah.
So it's worked.
So
really well.
how many code enforcement people do you have?
So we have 2 full-time.
2 full-time.
And one of them actually works on Saturdays. So
Okay.
one is a Monday through Friday, and one is a Tuesday through Saturday position. And then the supervisor is a Monday through Friday person that's over both of those.
Okay, the supervisor oversees not only code enforcement, though, also oversees
Animal control.
animal control. Let's talk about that one, because people love their animals, and then people maybe sometimes hate their neighbors' animals, right? Barking dogs and, screeching chickens and whatever else might be around out here. So tell me about that element of community and neighborhood services.
So we've been doing animal services for about 6 years now. So animal services is not only animal control, which we have 3 full-time animal control officers and a part-time animal control officer, but we also do our programming and dog licensing through our department. So we have the animal control is from 7 in the morning to 10 or 11 o'clock at night, depending on which animal control officer works the evening. So we're covered most of the hours of the day, I should say.
All right. So how did, let's talk about this. It was somewhat of a controversial thing when this happened a while back, that the town took on this whole animal control services element and started venturing out on our own, because we always used, for the longest time, we contracted with Pima County. So tell me about how that happened, why it happened, and how you think it's going for us.
Well, first of all, I'm going to say I think it's going great. It was a very difficult decision to make when we started looking into it. We really wanted to provide a level of service to our residents, our four-legged and their owners, that we weren't unfortunately receiving at the time. And we had received more complaints or concerns from residents that were asking for more. They really wanted a better service. So we looked into it, and it was quite the undertaking, but we bit the bullet and dove right in, and it has been amazing. We started out with only 2 animal control officers, so we have slowly increased to having evening hours, because we were really just doing day hours, which we really were supported a lot by our police department, because after we leave in the evening, for the most part, the police department covers the overnight hours, and they still do that, and will call us out if there's an issue that they can't resolve or need assistance with. But it's been fabulous. We've had a great, even some naysayers. We had a lot of naysayers at the beginning. And I
think that's putting it mildly. We had people actively campaigning against us on this issue, showing up in the council meetings. And I was a police chief at the time. I sat back in the corner and quietly listened to some of the angry people who really thought we were crazy for doing this. But as you said, it is going great. And hats off to you and to your crew for that.
It's a good feeling because, I have now had I have an interaction with a lot of these people now, and they'll come up to me and say, I was against it, but I think you guys are doing great. And so, that makes me feel really good. I think our team is amazing.
Do you feel a little vindication, Lisa, maybe?
I still smile. And, I'm like...
You're too sweet to feel vindication, perhaps, but...
Yeah.
And I'll be honest, for the listeners, I think Lisa's being a little bit modest when she said, we ventured into this, we decided to do this. It was really you, Lisa, that carried the torch on this, that carried the ball on this, that put it all together and made it happen. And as you said, it was a huge undertaking, and it was pretty much Lisa Shafer and maybe a little bit of help from a person here and there, but you really made this happen, and now you're helping other local jurisdictions figure out how to do it for themselves.
Yeah, I appreciate that. I truly don't, without one gentleman that's no longer with the town, Bill Lorfus, without him, I don't know how we would have, he had a great background in policing that really helped us start this whole thing up. So he was key to all that. And again, the supervisor we have in there right now, who also has a PD background, both retired, that's really been instrumental in making this work as well as it has. But yes, we have had, a couple of other jurisdictions reach out outside of other southern Arizona here. And so trying to help them and let us know.
That feels good. So let me ask you this, from your perspective, what are perhaps some of the biggest benefits and in the way of increased, improved, enhanced services to our residents relative to this whole animal control services element?
Probably by far the most enhanced benefit is people, we show up immediately. It's rare that, we're on more than a 15-minute response time. It's, you can call in through our police dispatch. You can call in through our animal control line that gets to somebody in our office. People will go through our My Marana app, email. There are many ways that you can get in contact with us. And even if it's after hours, if it's after 5, you leave a message, we have a person on, and we all get the voicemails. And so they'll even respond, obviously. If you had to leave a voicemail, you get a response that day. So that has been by far the biggest benefit to our residents, is you get a live person to you really quickly.
So with the types of calls that you guys are responding to, and these are calls that typically PD used to respond to all the time, whether it's a dog in a car, or barking dogs, or vicious dogs, or whatever the case may be. So tell me about some of the types of calls, and tell me some of the most interesting animal service calls that we've had, perhaps.
It's really funny. If you come in my office, I have a dry erase board, and it has all the non-domestic calls that we have had over the past 6 years. So that list is very long, and it's
Non-domestic animal calls?
Yes, non-domestic ones. So, typically, we're responding cats and dogs, those types of, we'll get your occasional guinea pig or rats or somebody that's left, animals in apartments or hotel rooms or something like that. But, we have had peacock calls, and that was very interesting. Pelican calls.
Somebody's calling because a pelican is making too much noise, because it's in their yard.
Just because it's in Arizona is why, a pelican on the frontage road makes an impression on somebody, because you don't typically have pelicans here.
Yeah, I actually remember that. I remember when that happened.
We had some great pictures because PD actually blocked off the frontage road.
Yeah.
And so we have PD cars and a pelican. So that, and those we find later, they have about a dozen of those supposedly a year where they get off course from bad windstorms or something like that. Mm-hmm. And so those are just interesting ones that we don't typically have, but we have all of our other wild animal. Javelina is probably one of the biggest ones, where for the most part, there's not a lot for us to do. Unfortunately, the javelinas that are hit by cars, or, those types of wild animal calls that are hit by cars is something else that we have to deal with. But
so talk a little bit about, what is the benefit of code enforcement, and why? let me take a step back. So we talked about weeds earlier. And what we didn't talk about is we didn't talk about junk motor vehicles. But those are two big things, right? RVs on the streets, junk motor vehicles, people parking the wrong way, weeds in people's yards. Why is government even getting involved in that? What do we care? I mean, what do we care if the weeds are 9 inches tall? Is there really a reason for us to get involved in that kind of stuff? Somebody's got a junk motor vehicle in their drive, in their yard. Why do we get involved in that?
Typically, our supervisor's goal is to have us respond to something within a half an hour.
From road debris and potholes to water leaks, the town of Marana is on it. Don't let a problem go unnoticed. Download the My Marana app for Android or Apple phones and do good today.
Are you ready to accept the Dine and Discover Marana Local Summer Challenge? Support local food and beverage businesses, including restaurants, cafes, food trucks, and more. Track your trips on the challenge card and visit the Marana Visitors Center to earn exclusive Marana merch you'll be proud to wear. What better way to show community pride and support for local businesses? For more information, visit discovermarana.org. Challenge cards will be accepted through August or while supplies last. This program is brought to you by the Marana Chamber of Commerce in partnership with Discover Marana.
Are you splash savvy? In the event of a home drowning, you are the first responder. We'll walk you through the steps so you can prevent further complications until help arrives. Learn more from Marana Lifeguards, Marana Police, and Northwest Fire District at maranaaz.gov/splash savvy. We are first responders against drowning, and we are splash savvy.
About a year, almost 2 years ago, we put together our Title 18 of our code, and it's public nuisances and property preservation. Mm-hmm. And that's, it's very important to our residents that properties stay in a state that is not blighted, not run down. And that is what's very at the top of our list is, we want to make sure our town stays healthy, safe, and looking good. Mm-hmm. And so all of those things play a part of it. They all, the weeds play a part of it. A junk vehicle plays a part of it. The more you let in those types of elements, greater possibility you have of other more criminal element obviously coming in too. So that is something that you want to maintain the look and feel and the health safety of Marana. So you don't invite the bad stuff into our community. So.
Now you're speaking my language, Lisa. A big time proponent myself personally of that, broken windows, policing mentality of, when things look run down, it invites, and there's no question about this. I have seen it for 35 years when I was in law enforcement. You see that the more run down a neighborhood looks, the more criminal element you end up in that community. Not saying that everybody in the neighborhood is criminal. I'm just saying that it certainly does invite that because it gives the appearance that nobody's paying attention. And that's what criminals are looking for, a place where nobody's paying attention. So when lawns are, as I say lawns, like we have lawns here. Do we have lawns in Arizona? I don't know. Front yards, when front yards are manicured and taken care of and they don't have weeds growing and they don't have, junk motor vehicles sitting in the front yard and in the driveways and, oil and grease. So, there are safety elements too. When weeds get to a certain point, can cause issues with, potential fire hazards and, you get broke down vehicles, leaking oil, gas, all of those kinds of things. So there are some very important elements to that as well. So how would a resident know if they have an issue in their neighborhood and they're not sure who to call? How do they know when they should call do they go out and measure the weeds? Oh, it's only 8 inches. I need to call my HOA. How do people really know who they should call?
Easy answer would be start with your HOA and just talk to them and ask them, because there's things like on-street parking, which the town does not deal with, but your HOA might. and it may be in, if it's in your CCNRs, which they're going to be much more restrictive on many of these issues, then it's going to be something they're going to address. They'll tell you, I guarantee you, they'll tell you real quick if they don't want to deal with it or they don't deal with it, to call the town. But I would probably start with your HOA. Then, if it's not, and you call the town, you can call our front desk or you can call our code enforcement line. And we will let you know if it's certainly something the town addresses, or, there's going to be an occasion that it's not something that is really addressed by the town or maybe by the HOA. That's going to be rare, or it may not be addressed by code enforcement. But code enforcement is definitely a first step, and you can call them and they will say, okay, yes, maybe that is something that is handled by the police department. Be a noise, disturbing your peace. Somebody's playing their radio loud or late at night or something like that. Not necessarily something code's going to go out for. That's going to be a police matter. But code enforcement will make that connection for them and make sure the right person gets back with them. Same with building codes. We get a lot of people calling us for building code, maybe violations, or they're building without a permit, or how do I build? Because code is in the word, code enforcement, that's why they call us. So we will make sure we make that connection with building services. Building services handles like outdoor lighting code, so we will direct we'll have building services contact them. But it's easy to just start with code enforcement, and then we can make that introduction to the right department if need be, if it's not something they handle directly.
Excellent. So there's other things that Community and Neighborhood Services does, offering services to the community. So let's talk about some of those, some of the ones that are really highly popular, dealing with animals, dealing with drug drop-off, neighborhood cleanup. So let's talk about some of those programs that you guys have implemented and run, and the benefits to those, the benefits of those programs to our residents.
So we have which is probably going to be definitely another podcast one day. We have our Community Development Block Grant program that we have historically received funds through the county, and we are currently going to be going directly to HUD and starting our own program. But one of the things...
HUD being, so everybody knows, Housing and Urban Development. Yeah, there we go.
Yes, so we should be receiving our award any day now, so we're very excited about that. But most of the things will not change, in that we're going to be doing what we've done in the past, maybe on a bigger scale. We're getting a little bit more money, so it'll be a bit of a bigger scale. So one of the things we've had is we've done colonial neighborhood cleanups. We have some older neighborhoods, which you mentioned ahead of time, don't have HOAs.
Right.
So there are older neighborhoods, many of them most of them predate the incorporation of the town. So we have historically put dumpsters in those neighborhoods a couple of times a year, just provided them a few different things through our CDBG program. So that will be something that continues on with going out on our own and having our own HUD program. Animal Services when you're asking again, what are some of the benefits? Our town didn't before ever have any kind of programs really that were for the town. We do spay and neuter clinics twice a year.
Very popular.
Very popular. And then the spay and neuter clinics are for the Marana residents, people that live in the incorporated boundaries of the town. We receive most of our funds for the pet plates grant. So if you see cars driving around with the little spay and neuter license plates, those they issue out pet plate grant every probably in the fall every year. So we have been the recipient of those for 3 years now. So that's where a lot of our funds come from for the spay and neuter grants. And we do vaccination clinics twice a year. Humane Society of Southern Arizona partners with us. Ossavet Charities is the one that comes out and helps us with the spay and neuter clinic. So they bring out their mobile clinic, and they're amazing. But Humane Society will come out for the Humane Society one. The vaccinations are open to anybody. So we have people coming because they're very reasonably priced from all over. I mean, last time we had a couple people from Sahuarita come. We've had them from Pinal County. We had one from Casa Grande one time come. So they come from all over. The rabies for the town of Marana, the town covers if you are a resident of the town free of charge. So,
wow.
And I can explain a little bit more on how important the rabies
I'm
is.
the town manager. I should probably know that. I didn't know that, so I learned something today.
Yes. it is very important to have the rabies, your animals vaccinated. But so we cover those costs. But for anybody outside of the town, they're only $6. The Humane Society, it's the cheapest that the Humane Society offers it. It's even cheaper than if you go to their clinic and get a rabies vaccination. So that's great to know. So we do have quite, we probably have about up to 70, 80, 90 people that will come during those clinics. We also do a free microchip clinic, usually in June. We had it in June, not this past, right before the 4th of July. So we want to make sure we get as many dogs and cats microchipped because that...
Do we do teenagers too?
That would be nice.
Teenagers.
My husband always wanted to low jack the kids, but yes.
Nice.
So, yeah.
I like it. Well, Vic here has a couple of daughters, and one of them's getting close to teenage years. So I don't know. That might be of interest to her as well. But yeah, so the microchipping, yeah.
Microchipping, like I said, vaccinations. We do our own animal licensing. So you can come here to the office. You can do it online. You can give us a phone call. So we'll do all the licensing, which a rabies vaccination is required. And that's basically the reason jurisdictions have licensing. It's to manage rabies vaccinations. And
It's not to make money.
No, it is definitely not. And
It's definitely not to make money.
No.
We don't make money off the deal. No. It actually cost us to do it, but yeah.
Yeah, it is. It's super important. People don't really, by law, if there's a bite, your dog bit your neighbor and your dog was not vaccinated, then
Bad
that
news.
dog has to be in quarantine for 10 days. So Humane Society of Southern Arizona is our shelter.
Good partners?
Amazing partners.
Amazing partners.
Amazing
Love
partners.
hearing that. Yeah.
So you do have to, take your dog either to your vet who will quarantine, or the Humane Society for 10 days at $45 a day. So for that free rabies that we offered, it's now going to cost you $450
Right.
at the Humane Society.
What's a dog license cost?
So the dog license, if your dog is altered for 1 year, is just $20. And if you're a senior, 65 or older, it's $10.
If the dog is altered?
So if your dog has been spayed or neutered.
Okay.
Yeah,
$20.
so there is a difference. If your dog is unaltered, not spayed or neutered, the 1 year is $60. Unless you're a senior, then they're $20.
Okay.
We also offer 2 and 3 year options that correspond with a rabies vaccination that are discounted. So $30 for a 2 year or $45 for a 3 year. By far the best deal.
I'm learning a few things on this show today, Lisa.
You only have to deal with this once every 3 years that way. It's great.
I like it.
Just so you know, like rabies vaccinations are important if your dog comes in contact, or cat for that matter, with wildlife that is suspected of being rabid. Or if they are rabid, it can be hundreds of days, 150 days or something of quarantine.
Ooh.
That's extremely, extremely expensive. So we've really been trying to promote people to get their rabies vaccinations on their dogs and cats.
Yeah, very important. Get your dogs spayed and neutered, get them vaccinated. And now let's talk about a couple of other things that you guys do that I think are really awesome. Shred events, prescription drop-off, computers. Talk about some of that stuff.
So actually the prescription drop-off thing goes through PD. So we have,
that's right.
Yeah, so that one is,
That's through
their
the DEA.
VIPs. They do their VIPs, I think, really help on that one. They usually have that one at Fry's. But we usually have a electronic recycle, which will take basically anything. It has a cord or even a battery for that matter.
Tube television. We don't take tube televisions.
No, unfortunately not. So we have that usually about once a year. We'll have an electronic recycle, and then the paper shred we have about once a year. And we've been having them early springtime before it gets too hot, and after it's a little, not quite so
spring
chilly and
cleaning.
everything. Spring cleaning after it's like a New Year's resolution, and get rid of all that paper. So those have been pretty well attended on both of those. So.
All right. Well, Lisa, I so appreciate having you on the show. Is there anything else that you can think of that the neighbors, see, community and neighborhood services, I got it in my head. Anything else out here that you think our residents should be aware of?
I would like to really promote, like the My Marana app is a great app for our code enforcement. Not just a code enforcement, but you can report all kinds of different things.
Potholes.
Potholes, yeah, sidewalks
Street
that are
signs
issued.
down, whatever.
Yep, you can do any of that. So That is a great way of, you can report weeds, you can take pictures of whatever the issue is. And those get responded to really quickly as well. We also have a Marana Pets app that is for lost and found pets that we use. You can see if we pick up a stray animal, we upload it to our app. So if you have the app, you can see that. But it also goes to our website. So if you go to Animal Services, part of the town website, you can see all of the dogs basically that we have picked up.
Well, you reminded me of something that I meant to talk about earlier and forgot about, and that is the return rate of our four-legged friends to their owners. Talk a little bit about that, the success that you guys have had in reuniting four-legged animals with their owners.
We overall, every year we've definitely taken back more animals straight to their owners than taken to Humane Society. The exception of this year, unfortunately, we fell right below 50%, which is a little bit of a bummer for all of us. But we have promoted so much with microchipping. Tags are obviously great. Microchipping is even better. But it has been very important that we try all kinds of avenues to get it back to the owner before we take it down to the shelter environment. One thing I want to also say, Humane Society is amazing, but, all of the shelters get overwhelmed. So we try to avoid taking them to the shelter if at all possible. And one of the things I probably should say, we've been in this over 6 years now, and we still have people that don't know that we broke away from PEMA Animal Services or Animal Control. And so PAC, if people go down and take stray animals that they found to PAC, they're not going to take them from Marana if you found them in Marana. So that kind of is a little bit of a confusion I wanted to hopefully get out there that, if you have found a stray animal, you can certainly give us a call and we're going to come over and take care of the dog.
Yeah, we'll come to you. You don't have to go.
Yeah, we'll come to you.
Yeah.
If you decide you want to take it, it's going to be Humane Society of Southern Arizona. And they have an amazing facility. If you haven't been down there, they built it a few years, probably about 5 years ago now, 4 years ago. So it's an amazing facility. But I wanted to try to make that clarification that, unfortunately, I feel bad for people who drive all the way down to PAC and then they get turned away.
Well, that's an important thing for our residents to know, right? If you have a stray animal, call us, we'll come out. If you are bent on taking it someplace, don't take it to PAC, take it to the Humane Society.
So our return to owner rate, we really want it above 50%. We want to certainly be taking more back home than we take to the shelter. When you look at the return to owner rate from us and the Humane Society, so we keep track of that. So if we take an animal in there and the Humane Society returns it to the owner, then that number definitely is over 50%.
Well, I think that'll do it for today, folks. Lisa, so appreciate you being with us on the show today. A first time for you. We're going to give you a sticker or something. Vic's probably got some sort of thing that she can give you, but appreciate you being on the show, educating our residents on the difference between HOAs and the town and when the two work together and, who you need to call, when, and all of those kinds of things. So greatly appreciate it. Been very informative. And thank you, listeners, for joining us once again. Until next time. Submit your questions by visiting maranaaz.gov/realtalk, and we'll answer them right here. To receive notifications for new releases, remember to click subscribe wherever you get your podcasts. Also, please follow the town on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram to stay up to date on current news and events.